Hello, all my scribes out there. It is Saturday evening and it's later than I expected to get on, but I challenged myself to make sure I came on live every day. So hopefully you're catching this on a replay. I'm going to talk a little bit tonight. We've been talking about 5 things that every author should do, aspiring author, kingdom writer should do before they start their manuscript. And today is day 6 of me going live, and I wanted to make sure that I came on live. So if you're watching the replay, just write in there replay. We are, again, talking about 5 things that every aspiring author should do before they start writing their manuscript. For those who are watching for the first time, I am Deborah Gaston, owner of Deborah Gaston LLC and Total Concept Publishing. I help aspiring kingdom authors, business owners, entrepreneurs, and ministry leaders write their story, their expertise, their wisdom, their revelation in a book. I do that by guiding them through the writing and self-publishing process from blank page to bestseller so they can use that book to build a business, grow their ministry, leave a legacy, impact lives, and create multiple streams of income. I actually believe that the charge on my life is to help kingdom writers write the books that will change mindsets, shift culture, and advance God's kingdom in their sphere of influence. And if that's you, you are in the right place. And if that is you, and you know that God is calling you to get that book out in 2024, I would love to work with you. And I'm going to show you how we can work together if you just continue watching this video. We've already talked about these last 5 days, the importance of knowing your mission, knowing your why, the overall purpose of your book. We've talked about identifying and finding your tribe, your market, knowing your specific audience. We've talked about knowing your metron, that's your where. What sphere of influence are you called to impact with your book? And what is your measure or your authority within that sphere? That's what metron means. And then last time we were together, we talked about clarifying your message, making sure that you've narrowed it down to something that you can easily manage in a book. You're not trying to cover too much information, overwhelming your readers, but you've narrowed it down to something that is manageable in 100 to 120, 130 pages. And tonight we're going to talk about mapping your journey. You're taking your reader on a journey, and you have to have a clear destination in mind. That is your aha, your overall reason. What are they going to get by the end of the book? But how are you going to get them to that big aha? That requires kind of mapping out your journey. When I was a child, summers always meant that we were going on a road trip. And that was a road trip heading south to visit my maternal grandparents who lived in Knoxville, Tennessee. And then we'd head even further south to visit aunts and uncles and cousins from Sheffield, Alabama, where my father was from. And even though it was a trip we made every single year, I mean, every year, my father never left it to chance that we would know how to get there. He always mapped out our journey from Cincinnati to Nashville, to Knoxville, and then from Knoxville to Sheffield. We had the big paper maps, right? This was before GPS and superhighways and all of that great stuff. So we get out the big maps from AAA and we map out how we were going to make this trip. My father never left it to chance. There was never a time that we just got in the car and he said, hey, let's just head south and see where we end up. Hope we get there. We never did that. He always had a mapped out destination in mind. And it's pretty much the same when you're writing your book. You want to make sure that you are taking your reader on a journey. You just don't start out and say, I hope I get to the big aha. I'll just start writing and hope we get there. You wouldn't, let's say you're going on a trip from New York City to Los Angeles. You don't get in your car and just head west and say, hope we get there. You decide what you want to see, what cities you're going to go through. Are you going to go straight through, or are you going to take your time and visit various places along the way? And what are those places going to be? Where are you going to stop over and rest? All of those things you take into consideration before you get in your car and head west. And it's the same thing when you are writing your book. You have to have a clear idea of not only where you're going, but how you're going to get there. You want to make sure that you kind of mapped out that destination, not leaving it to chance, but having some kind of outline in your book that provides a structure and a framework, a kind of step by step way of revealing the message of your book to your reader in a logical and strategic and orderly way, a way that just kind of flows naturally. So it doesn't feel like you're pulling from here and pulling from there and pulling from here, but there has to be a nice pace and flow from where your reader is at the beginning of the book to where you want them at the end of the book. I usually have, when I'm doing workshops or working with authors, I have them just take out a sheet of paper. At the top of the page, write starting point. In the bottom of the paper, you want to write destination. Now, at the starting point, where is your reader at the beginning of your book? Where are they spiritually, emotionally, physically? What problem do they have, or what need do they have? How are they feeling? Where are they at that point? Are they nervous? Are they scared? Are they, whatever, wherever they are? What is the big aha? Where do you want them at the end of the book? What tools will they have? What will they be able to do that they couldn't do before? Or what will they be able to stop doing that they were doing before but was harmful to them? What transformation will have taken place with them? What kind of attitude change may have taken place with them? How will they think differently? What is the call to action? What are you asking them to do now that they could not do before? Now, how are you going to move them from here to there? How many steps will it take for you to give them what they need so they reach that big aha at the end of the book? Again, it has to be in a kind of strategic, systematic order that you're guiding them from where they are to where you want them. How many steps that will determine how many chapters you will have in your book. What kinds of stories will you give them? What kind of information do they need in some logical order? What illustrations, what are you going to show them on their journey? What personal stories can you include? What information from your data and statistics and any research you've done that is necessary in each of those steps? What examples are you going to use? So we'll talk about creating a chapter outline. And I know as soon as you hear the word outline, you're going, oh man, you have flashbacks of having to write a research paper in college or in high school, and you've got the Roman numerals and capital letters and the small letters. And I'm not talking about that kind of outline. I'm just talking about a very basic structure for each of your chapters that will be a guide for you. You're not absolutely tied to an outline because writing is organic. So once you start writing, you may find another kind of example that you want to use. You may even find a totally different destination to get to your a route to get to your end, or even a totally new destination. That's the nature of writing, especially if you're being spirit led. But you don't start out just like my father never started out and said, let's see if we get to Knoxville. He always had a plan in mind. And there were things that would happen that would throw us off, and we'd have to readjust because of weather, or we got lost, or there were detours in the road. We prepare for that. There will be those changes, but you don't start out without a plan. And you want to have each each chapter outlines. I'm going to give you a basic structure for outlining each of your chapters in your book. Each chapter should cover one specific topic that's related to the overall message of your book. No chapter should be in there, y'all, that is not serve the purpose of the book, is not related to the aha at the end of the book, what we talked about when we were talking about your message, and does not serve your reader. You're not including information just because you like it, you thought it was a cute story, it was a funny story, or it moved you in some kind of way. Everything, everything must serve your reader, and everything must point to your big aha at the end of the book. Okay, and so each chapter is a point, a major point that leads to that end. So you want to think about the major points that you want to include or need to include. You'll explain the topic. You're going to give examples and illustrations, and then you're going to close by either summing up the chapter or segueing into the next chapter, or a combination of both. You can summarize and then have a sentence or two that segues or leads you into the next chapter. Basic outline. All right, this is it. There's several ways that you can guide your reader. The very first thing that you want to do is to pull them in to your chapter. Pull them in by giving them, but what we use is a hook. Make them excited, make them want to read, make them pique their interest in some kind of way that makes them want to read the rest of the chapter. This is for me, or I really want to know what you're talking about. You can do that in several ways. You can use a personal story. You can ask a question, use rhetorical questions. You can use statistics, or you can use a quote. But you want to use some kind of way to hook them in that first paragraph. And I'll talk about this probably in another video, but it's really important that you understand, even though you are writing nonfiction, we're talking mainly to nonfiction writers, you want to use story. We are wired, we connect through story more than we connect through straight up information and facts. So you want to use story, primarily your story, we hope, and have your story woven in and out throughout the book, so that it's engaging. And I'll probably do a video or a training at some point on creative nonfiction, how to use story in your nonfiction book. So again, you want to start your chapters out with some kind of way that draws them in, some kind of hook, whether it's using a personal story, a statistic, a question, or a quote. And then you want to give them your first main point. And again, that main point has to be related to the topic of that chapter. When you give that first main point, you want to give some kind of supporting details. What do the facts say? What does your research say? And then give an example, and then close that out with a closing point. And for each main point, you're going to do the same. So it'll be main point, it'll be a hook. Main point number one was support, example, closing point. Main point number two was support, examples, closing point. And again, you can weave your story in through these main points as well. Hopefully that's what you'll do. Main point number three, support, examples, closing point. And you don't have to give it always in that particular order, but that's going to be your main structure. And if you keep that main structure, it'll be a whole lot easier for you to write your book. Again, main point of the chapter, then a hook. Then the first main point of that chapter was support and examples. Main point number two, support, examples, closing. Main support chapters. If you have three main points, you can have as many main points as you want to. I suggest you don't have more than three. You don't want to overwhelm your reader. You don't want to make your chapters long, We have a short attention span, and we can only take in so much information at a time. So you don't want to throw a whole lot of information at them at one time. Keep it as simple as possible. 2 to 3 main points per chapter, right? And then you go on to your next chapter, and that next chapter is going to have pretty much that same kind of structure. You can start with the main point and then give a story. There are all kinds of ways that you can kind of rearrange it so it doesn't look so pat, but that's the basic idea. You want to make sure you hook them. You want to make sure you're weaving your story in and out, but you're giving them two to three main points for your main topic of the chapter with supporting details and examples. You want to give examples that can be real life examples from your life, that can be from the Bible, or a combination of those. It's up to you, but you want to make it so that you're not just giving straight information that it's going to be hard for them to retain. As long as I have examples, then I'm able to retain that more in story form than just straight information. All right. That is the basic structure that you want to use for your chapters. So now you should know, these are the points I want to include. These are going to be my chapters. This is the examples. These are the examples. This is the information from research that I'm going to use. And then you're going to close your chapter out by either summarizing. You can give a list of main points of that chapter. You can summarize the chapter. You can segue into the next chapter. And that's basic structure for each chapter of your book. If you can follow that, it'll be so much easier for you to write your book. And you'll be able to, and you'll have this structure, you'll have this outline that'll keep you focused and make it easier for you. You don't want to belabor this. It doesn't have to be hard and laborious. I'm not going to lie, it's work, but it doesn't have to be hard and laborious work. And having an outline is going to make it that much easier for you. Just a point, as you are writing your outline, as you are doing your research, and if you're doing a nonfiction book, most likely you're going to have to do a little bit of research. Make sure that you are keeping a running list of everything that you are using. Every resource, every website, make sure you're copying and pasting it somewhere. You're going to have to be able to cite all your sources. We do not plagiarize. We do not take credit for ideas that are not ours, because we are Christians and it's a question of integrity. So you want to make sure you are citing everything. And it's not just if you quote them directly. That means if you got any idea, even if you paraphrase it or it influenced how you thought, you want to make sure that you're giving the author credit for his or her idea. And I also want to tell you to please make sure, as you are writing, that you are keeping track of any versions of the Bible that you may be quoting. If you're like a purist and everything's from King James, you don't have to worry about that so much. But if you use any other version of the Bible, please note what version it is and their copyright information. That will be information that needs to go on your copyright page. Okay? And I think I'm going to stop right there. The only other thing I want to share with you is just the basic structure of a book, nonfiction book, and that is there are 3 parts to every book, and that is front matter, your chapters, and your back matter. Some things are optional, some things are required, and I'll just go through some of this very quickly with you so that you can kind of keep in mind what you want to do or how you're going to structure your book. The topic of your book or the kind of book that you're writing may dictate the structure, but here is the basic structure. Front matter will include a half title page, which is optional. A half title page just has the main title. That's it. Nothing else is on that page. I can show you in here. This is my Finding Your Flow. If you have a relatively short book, you may want to add this is a half title page. It's just the title page. Yeah. Just the title, main title. Nothing else is on the page. If you have a short book, you may want to add a title page because that'll add 2 pages to your book. We'll talk about the difference between recto, what needs to go on what they call the recto and the verso are pages. The right side is called the recto. There's certain things that have to start on the right side of the book, and that so then that means your book will have some blank pages. But if it's a short book, you want to make sure you can add a half title page. Full title page has the title, subtitle, your name as the author, publisher, and place of publication. Hopefully you're keeping control of all your stuff, so you're the one that's publishing the book, and you aren't dependent on anybody to pay you royalties. You're controlling all of your stuff. Then you'll have your copyright page, which is required. Along with that will be your copyright date, all rights reserved, your ISBNs for whatever, how many ever formats of the book you're doing. And then again, your publisher, location, contact information. You can include who does your cover design or your layout or your editor. You can add your photographer, any of those important people that you want to acknowledge in case somebody else wants to use their services as well. And then your ISBNs, and if you're registered, your copyright, you should have a Library of Congress number that you can include as well. Dedication is optional. Table of contents, you want to make sure you have that. Acknowledgments, optional, but you want to thank people that supported you as you were writing your book. Forward is optional. Forward is written by someone else, not by the author, but by someone else, and it introduces the book and the author to the reader. It's basically an endorsement for your book. So you could give 4 or 5 chapters, even before you finish writing your book, send it to somebody that you trust, ask them to read that, a few chapters, and then write a foreword for you. Or you can wait until you have the full manuscript, ask them to read and write something for you. Preface is optional. Your preface is your why. Why did you write the book, or how did the book come into being? Your introduction tells the what of your book. It kind of sets your reader up for what is to come, what they can expect. And then you've got your main chapters, and then your back matter. Back matter will include your author bio and contact information. If you have an appendix, you can include that in the back of the book. Endnotes, and if you are quoting, I suggest endnotes. They're easier to format than footnotes. So you want to make sure that you're keeping track of all the sources that you are using. If you have terms that you want to define, you can put your glossary in your back matter. Any resources for the reader should go in your back matter. And again, your bibliography or works cited should be back there as well. Okay, I want to just remind you before I finish, writing is a process. It is a process. I cannot emphasize that enough. Some of the stages may overlap, but if you try to skip any of the stages, you'll end up either creating more work for yourself in the long run, or you may end up with a book that is not just what you want it to be. And remember, we're looking for something done in excellence because we're representing the kingdom of God. We're representing God himself, and we want to present him with our best. And that is excellence, but not perfection. We want to work in excellence, but doesn't have to be perfect, but we want it to be the best that we have to offer. So you all, if you have done these things over the last 5 days, you're clear on your mission, you're clear on your market, you're clear on your metron, you're clear on your message, and now you've mapped out your book. You are ready to get started with that first draft, and we'll talk about that tomorrow night. Again, if you know that now is the time that God is speaking to you to get that book out, you've been trying and trying and trying for a long time and you haven't done it yet, I would love to help you give birth to that book. I have been lovingly called the Book Midwife. So please go to my website, DeborahGasson.com. I'm going to put it up here on the screen, DeborahGasson.com/book. And schedule your 1-hour uninterrupted call with me to talk about all the possibilities that await you as a best-selling kingdom author. I'd love to work with you. Let's get it done. 2024 is the year for the scribes to arise. See you next time.